now. Okay, we are recording. So hello everybody on our YouTube page, on the Zoom for our live show. This is Mark Torres. I am host of It Came From Radio. We'll be starting in just 1 second. So let us do this. And here we go.
The following is brought to you in part by MFC Studios. The views of the show's host and guests do not necessarily reflect those of the management, owners, or staff of this radio station. And now, it came from the radio.
Yeah, but and welcome once again to It Came From the Radio, the official show of the Big Apple College. This, try that again. Welcome to It Came From the Radio, the official show of the Big Apple Con. This is your host, Mark Torres, speaking with me live on Zoom for our 35th live show, courtesy of the East Meadow Public Library, is none other than Dominic Definition Man Sperano.
Yabba dabba do there, Mark.
We have from The Life with Jenna G, Jenna Lee Steldy.
Hi there, buddy.
We have our senior correspondent, Charlie Saladino.
Latoya Jackson, everybody.
We have
The
our
most underrated of all the Jacksons, really.
Yeah.
and we have our special guest who we're going to be talking to, with, and about, which is awesome because he's here. We have artist, author, and all-around super cool guy, Prentis Rollins.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me.
So, as I mentioned, we're going to be talking with Prentiss in just a few minutes, but before that, we have to take it away with the news. The news is brought to you in part by the fine folks of the Big Apple Con, of which we are the official radio show of, celebrating over 25 years of comic bookness and pop culture stuff. For more information, go to www.bigapplecc.com, and their next convention will be in May 1st and 2nd of 2021.
We hope.
We hope, yes.
Yeah.
Also want to give our shout-outs for our Patreons, of which there are Danny Grillo, award-winning director Jared Burrell, Kyle Horn, Millie Portez, Newsday famous Dresden Media, Unji Kun, Shadow Rabbit Art, and the Hurricane, which is a convention in a church in Long Island. If you want to get your own little shout-out, go to www.patreon.com. Look up It Came From the Radio in the search bar, and just for $1, you can get your own little shout-out on our show. Whew. All right, so let's start off with the news. Sad news, as always. Start off with sad news. Billionaire Sumner Murray Redstone died recently. As of this recording, no cause of death has been announced. For those of you who lived in Long Island, New York, Sumner is best known for the very first drive-in movie theater in Valley Stream, Long Island, the Sunrise Multiplex Cinemas. Those of you who may not know that from that one movie theater, Sumner built his entire empire, which included Viacom, which in turn bought Paramount, and is now part of the CBS Corporation. Personally, in addition to working at Sunrise Multiplex for 10 years, that's me, and 10 years before that, I worked for Blockbuster Video, which is also owned by Viacom at the time, and about 99% of all the movies I've ever seen in my life in theaters have been owned by this man. So a large portion of my life is in some way related to Sumner, so he was a major part of it.
If only he knew.
True.
If only he knew, yes.
If only he knew. That's.
And
He was waiting
also,
for you to reach out.
Yeah, and also, I'd like to thank him because there's so many times I snuck into that drive-in and watched movies for free. So thank you for placing it in the right place, just where I can get in. It was great. Thank you.
Thank you for making Mark Torres the man he is today, because
Yes.
I love being his co-host.
Should we be thanking anyone for that?
Mark, I just saw you did say he created the first drive-in.
In Long Island, New York,
Okay.
yes.
I just saw my first drive-in movie here in London several weeks ago. It was Priscilla, Queen of the Desert with Terrence Stamp. Wonderful movie.
Oh.
And it was a
Nice.
freaky experience because here I am, 50 plus years of age, and I'm finally going to a drive-in.
Wow, that's
Wow.
crazy. My first drive-in movie, which was my very first movie ever, was Jaws.
Ah,
Wow.
Wow. Wow.
Huh, interesting.
You're old, Mark.
Yes, I am.
I'm not even going to tell you what my first driving movie was.
Was it Cleopatra?
No.
Was it a
Cleopatra.
was it a talkie or a silent movie?
It was
Was it Charlie
all I know,
Chaplin?
all I know, all I know is there was a guy playing piano next to the screen. That's it.
Oh man.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Oh no.
Of note, according to Forbes, as of April 2020, Sumner Redstone was worth about $2.6 billion.
Not gonna do him any good now.
I was gonna say, can't take it with him now, can he?
You know, it's
Yeah.
very true. He was a spry 97.
No, 97, you're no longer spry. 97, you're just hanging in there. And like they don't know what the cause of death is. I'll tell you what the cause of death was. He's 97.
Don't-
97 was the cause of death.
Yeah,
I thought it was.
and now he's
Ripped
probably
from
part of the
Buster
force.
Yeah, exactly.
For
If
all
there's
the
anything-
drive-ins that are popping up, he's now guiding all the drive-in producers.
The dude was so old he didn't need to be cremated. He just turned to dust. It was it. He ashed like a vampire.
Wow.
Hey,
Well,
Yes.
well,
He's 97, man. 97.
this guy may have been 97, but he was a big player. He
Oh, yeah.
definitely was. Yeah, you know. I mean, the last picture I saw of him in the news last week was with his two mistresses on his arms. That was, you know, you got to go.
Yeah, well, you know what Mel Brooks said. It's good to be the king.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, moving on
Yeah.
from more and the last bit of sad news. So, actor Harry Bernard Cross also died recently following a quote-unquote short illness. Ben Cross, his stage name, was perhaps best known for his portrayal of the British Olympic athlete Harold Abrahams in the 1981 film Chariots of Fire, and as Sarek, Spock's father, in the 2009 Star Trek film. In addition to the aforementioned role, Ben appeared in such movies as, here we go, A Bridge Too Far, The Unholy, Eye of the Widow, First Night, Turbulence, The Mechanic, Finding Rin Tin Tin, Jack the Giant Killer, The Hurricane Heist, The Rest is Ashes, and The Devil's Light, just to name a few. On the small screen, Ben appeared in such shows as The Flame Trees of Thika, The Citadel, I got it right? And Charlie's nodding his head, I got it right. Twist of Fate, The New Dark Shadows, Poltergeist Legacy, Trial and Retribution, SS Doom Trooper, Nuremberg, Nazis on Trial, Lost City Raiders, William and Kate the Movie, Banshee, Randy Cunningham, Ninth Grade Ninja, and 12 Monkeys, just to name a few. Oof.
Mark, how old was he? Did you say?
Nope, he was a young 72.
Mm.
And he
That's
died
young.
of following a short illness? What does that
Yes.
mean?
That
Short
means
illness.
he probably caught something and he died from it shortly thereafter.
It'll
It
be
was
labeled as a
fantastic
corona
as
death.
Sarek in Star Trek.
Yeah.
I thought it was well cast as Mark Leonard's
Yeah.
successor. It was a very good thing.
Yeah, he was an incredible actor. He was. I liked him.
I don't know why that's funny to me, but okay, Charlie got the same approval. Charlie liked him. All right, now.
No, I said he was an incredible actor,
Oh, okay. I didn't hear that.
and I liked him.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, so
Mark,
that's
are
it
you
for.
on something this evening? Are you
Um,
taking something? If so, why are you holding out on me?
No. Remember, no drug. I'm straight edge. Just straight edge. Just no drugs, no
Yeah.
drinking, none of that stuff. I'm high on life,
Right.
which isn't that high right
I
now.
was gonna say like your life. Okay.
Can't say the same.
All right, so moving on to happier news, sort of happier news, from the "We just want you to come and buy snacks" department. AMC Theaters, the nation's largest movie theater chain, has announced that they are expecting to reopen in the U.S. on this Friday, August 20th. Of course, due to the ongoing pandemic, they are enticing theatergoers with a retro, quote-unquote, ticket price of just 15 cents per movie. Of course, all the movies will be shown will be second-run films, such as the original Ghostbusters, Black Panther, Back to the Future, and Grease, just to name a few. After that, the initial price, the AMC has announced that those films will only cost $5 to see. Of course, all people are going to the movies will have to follow the CDC guidelines, such as wearing masks throughout the entire time they are there, as well as practicing social distancing. And the AMC will provide masks for those who need it for just $1.
So
I see they're following my modus operandi, and they're saying don't lower the price, raise the value, right? That's what they're doing.
I just saw we went to a movie, my family and I went to see Proxima, which is a new movie at Westfield here in London, big shopping center, and it had been closed for months, the theaters anyway, and it was a fantastic movie, and it was half price, and we didn't have to wear a mask all the way through the movie. We were able to eat our popcorn, and but man, it was good to be back.
Yeah, I'm wondering, like,
sucked not being able to go to the movies.
How are you supposed to be like eating popcorn or snacks while watching the movie if I have to wear my mask the whole time? What am I going to be like this?
Yeah, it's easy. You just go like this,
like
ready?
that? Like,
you shove it into the mask. So you got cherry, it goes in, and then you go like this.
That's it. You
And
got
then you
it.
have to spit the seed out.
of course. So, I mean, if you don't have to wear your mask in a restaurant, I don't see why you have to wear your mask the whole time while you're watching the movie, because you're going to be eating most likely.
True.
How many people see movies without getting some snack, some soda, some drink, something?
So,
One thing they were showing that we didn't see was the 40th anniversary re-release of The Empire Strikes Back, which I had seen on the big screen. The last time I saw it on the big screen was in 1997.
Oh, with the re-release.
With the special effects. That movie deserves to be seen on a big screen, but we voted for something new. Proxima was pretty awesome.
But the movie theaters didn't give you a discount on the food, did they?
No, no, they didn't. And it was like wrapped in this new way. The popcorn's got a cover on top of it now. They didn't have hot food, no hot dogs. So, yeah, there was suffering all around. But, you know,
Wow.
First world problems.
As I've mentioned earlier, I used to work in a movie theater, and I've mentioned this many times. Movie theaters make their money on the concessions. So they 15 cents, they could let you in for free for all they care. They want you to just come in and buy all the crap as possible. And that's how they stay in business and make their money. I mean, we've actually talked about how to keep the theaters going. What was your plan, Jen?
Use it as a front for money laundering and then sell drugs.
I think there are some theaters that do that already.
Yeah, sell popcorn, hot
think
dogs,
Mark worked at one of
drugs, alcohol too, prostitutes also, and massages.
You could actually put the alcohol in the gummy bears. Just leave it in a pan overnight. Put the vodka in the gummy bears. Soak it up. There you go.
Interesting.
You know, I have a problem with the prostitute massage thing because, like, you either get prostitutes that can do massages or you don't get massage people at all. Because I dated a massage therapist. She used to keep a taser underneath the table in case someone got handsy. Like, they're very determined, like, no, we don't do that kind of massage. So, like, you need to make sure that these prostitutes can give a good massage, or else don't. That's a terror. You know, you got to be clear on that in your business model.
By the way, the drugs, alcohol, prostitutes, all these things would have made episode 9 much more enjoyable.
Absolutely.
Yes. There you go.
Absolutely. Are we doing a good job of getting kicked off the library program with this talk?
We might be. We might be.
I just wanted to note it was Jen started the conversation.
The views of us doesn't necessarily reflect the views of the library.
Yes,
right.
Okay,
correct.
Yeah.
There we go.
Right.
We're clear.
All right, so moving on, from the Pay the Man department. For those of you who have watched the recent Transformers series on Netflix, you may have noticed that the iconic voice of the two lead Transformers, Megatron and Optimus Prime, sounded a bit off. This is because Netflix hired different voice actors than the original Peter Cullen and Frank Welker to voice the characters, but had them to do their best impressions of the legendary actors. When asked about this at a Q&A panel, Peter Cullen, along with Frank Welker, had this to say. I'm not going to do a Peter Cullen voice.
Don't do it.
Using non-union personnel undercuts protections the actors' unions provide them. It also is an unspoken rule in the entertainment industry that you don't take over another actor's role without their approval, especially if said actor is still capable of doing their job.
Exactly. They went to Canal Street. You can spend $700 on Gucci, or you can go to Canal Street. They went to Canal Street.
I think as a fan of Transformers, they have used other voice actors for the roles, which is fine. I mean, they don't own it. It's not legally theirs. However, there are certain, as they say, rules that if it's your character, you're the main character, as long as you're able to do the voice, you should do it. But because Netflix is being cheap, they didn't want to pay them their rate and made it a non-union show. They got cheap knockoffs, and I think that's bad now. So now, as I watched it, I think it should be something that should be protested and be like, hey, pay the money, get the original actors.
Mark, can you answer a trivia question for me? I think you said the name Peter Cullen. Did he also do the voice of Eeyore on?
He did do the voice of ER on Winnie the Pooh. Yeah. Peter Cullen has been around for a long time. He's a pretty famous voice actor, and Frank Welker has done like everything in the world of voiceovers.
You know, I thought Peter was here because you sounded just like him.
Oh yeah, Netflix could have hired you.
Yes.
Peter Cullen said something interesting though for Optimus Prime, that he based it off of his older brother who went to Vietnam, and like that's why like Optimus like never yells or gets really angry with any of the Autobots. He felt that like good leadership was just cool, calm, collected the entire time. And I've been watching the old Transformers. I almost hear some John Wayne in it now. As an adult, I hear Optimus, and I can hear like there's a little bit of that John Wayne sort of thing going on there with him, which I like. You know, I can watch it. Like there's some things about the old Transformers that as a kid you didn't pay attention to, but I remember I just recently watched an episode where they drove to Africa from North America.
They took the long way.
They took I don't know how they did it, but you see them, they're in North America, and then the next thing you know, they're in Africa, and they're still transformed as cars. And I was just like,
are you saying you saw something unrealistic here? Is what you're basically
beyond like that? When I was 6 or 7, like you don't question, but now as a 37-year-old man, you're like, that's a little lazy on the writing. All you needed was a scene of them flying, because we know they can fly. The driving part, a little weird.
That's funny.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I was like,
I like that part about leaders not getting out of control or raising their voice. I'm big on that.
Yeah, and it was Peter Cullen didn't know how popular Optimus Prime was until like the movie came out.
When they killed him off.
When they killed him, yeah, because they didn't give him any of the fan mail. I guess they didn't want him to know, so he wouldn't ask for more money.
Wow.
So moving on to the last bit of news. There's a dog in the room. That's not the news, but that's a little factoid.
If it's not in your actual room, Mark, don't worry about it.
From the pendulum is still swinging wildly department. Last bit of news. All right, here we go. Portland's Northwest Film Center Cinema Unbound Drive-In Theater has caved to cancel culture and pulled the screening of a 1990 Arnold Schwarzenegger film, Kindergarten Cop, due to the film, quote-unquote, romanticizing over-policing in the United States. Other things about the film are being quoted as saying, what's so funny about school-to-prison pipeline? There's nothing funny in traumatizing kids. National reckoning and on over-policing is a weird time to revive Kindergarten Cop. In real life, we are trying to end school-to-prison pipeline. We recognize these films are not like good family fun. They are relics on how pop culture feeds racist assumptions. In place of Kindergarten Cop, the event's organizers will instead screen John Lewis's Good Trouble, a documentary about the late civil rights icon. Other films slated for the drive-in series includes Fast Times at Ridgemont High, Creature from the Black Lagoon, Xanadu, Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and The Shining.
Why put any of these up then? Like, there's a problem with almost all of those.
Well, there's a dude who masturbates in movie theaters or cops.
See, now we're gonna have to bleep that one when we air this.
I don't know about that.
You have such a potty mouth.
Well, it's not a potty mouth. That's a technical term. It's technical.
Yeah.
But seriously, I mean, they're gonna have that in a theater. Look what Pee Wee Herman did. Really? Come on.
There's like nude scenes in Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
That is right. That is right.
So like they're not going to want to protest that, and there's a couple other problems with some of the other movies, I'm sure. Like you can make an argument like The Creature from the Black Lagoon. Why is black evil? Why is it threatening? You can start ripping things apart to an nth degree. You know, Kindergarten Cop. Come on, you have Arnold Schwarzenegger with a bunch of kids teaching them calisthenics and going, "It's not a tumor. I don't have a tumor."
He's like the best cop ever, too. He's such a lifesaver. I mean,
Jackie,
great.
my wife and I saw Kindergarten Cop. I remember when in its first run. I don't really remember much about it. I seem to remember it being a innocuous bit of fluff entertainment, and I don't know what to say.
Well, there was a point where cancel culture wanted to cancel Robert Downey Jr. because he did Tropic Thunder.
Right.
Like, Tropic Thunder was in 2008. They're like, "Did you know he did blackface?" And it's like, if you actually saw the movie, you realized he's an actor playing an actor
Mm-hmm.
blackface, and it's a commentary on how stupid that is.
Right.
And he was great in it, by the way.
And he was great. It was fantastic.
Excellent.
I mean,
So-
we've said this many times before. I think it's just a pendulum, as I mentioned, going extremely one way and it's going extremely the other way. Eventually, it's going to find its way back to the center.
Mm-hmm.
But I think right now we're on the overreaction on one side, and it's kind of weird. It's a sad state of affairs.
It's 2 steps forward, 1 step back all the way. It really is.
I would go with 1 step forward, 2 steps back for the most
Yeah.
part. I mean, it's getting as bad as like the over-censorship by the Christian right in the 80s. It's getting almost to a point where it's like they're touching in the middle again because both sides have gone so extreme that there's this idea that you can't do X, Y, or Z, and both sides believe X, Y, and Z shouldn't be done for nearly semantical reasons. Whatever example, I don't want to go into specific examples, but they'll just come to both saying like, no, you shouldn't be able to do that. And one say like it's morally wrong. The others would be like, because you're oppressing people. Either way, you're both saying you're limiting my freedom, my freedom of choice, my freedom of expressing myself. And they don't care either side. It's too extreme. It's too crazy. Now, I'm sure you must have covered this topic in another
Many.
Yeah, you, Mark, another show, not different topic, but we're not talking about no New York Comic Con.
No, we did that already. That already came and went.
Dude, you need to save that for the live show, man. Like that's like the conversation.
News comes in. We do the show and it comes out. So this is what came up on this week's
Your
show.
own thing, like how you jumble around the episode so it doesn't matter.
It's like a Quentin Tarantino movie.
Exactly.
Or his more famous brother, Quentin Tarantino.
Exactly.
Oh, no. Hold it. In my region of Sicily, that's how you pronounce his name. So get your facts right, Mark.
You can't deny that, Mark. Today he's identifying as someone from a region of Sicily. You can't say that's not true.
That is correct.
Which pretty soon I'll be censored for that.
Yeah. Well, no, you
For
can't.
some godly reason.
You can't censor anyone for how they identify. You can't play that game. So, like, I have a friend who is a lawyer, right? He's a prosecutor. Defense attorney called him, said, like, he was being racist. And he just came back quick as a shot. You can't call me racist. Today I identify as a Puerto Rican lesbian.
There you go.
Defense attorney was like, I don't know if you're kidding or not. He's like, exactly. You don't know.
You don't know. Yes.
You can't censor anyone for who they identify to be.
That's right.
Very well said.
Yep.
So that's it for the news. The dog lets us know, and we're going to take our break.
When did you get a dog?
I don't know. I hear a dog. That's all I hear it. So we're going to take our break, and we'll be right back with It Came From the Radio.
Huh.
Hey everybody, it's Todd McFarlane of the Record-Setting Spawn comic series. And if you're looking for any kind of cool conversation about creators, about entertainment, about all that good stuff, you go to It Came From the Radio. You're listening to the right spot.
Hi, you've heard my voice open and close the show. Now we want to hear your voice. If you have a business or product, you can record a commercial here. We offer 30 and 60-second spots. For more information, contact Mark at mfc_studios@hotmail.com.
This is Quentin Flynn, popular voice actor known for Axel, Timon, and Ryan from the Metal Gear series. And you're listening to It Came From the Radio. Stick around.
Hey guys, this is Christy from Custom Cakes by Christy. I want you to know that I'm here for you. I'm keeping my private kitchen open for any needs your family may have. I've been focusing on bread, soups, muffins, quiches, and other basics, but I'm still accepting dessert orders as well. Please follow my Facebook for immediate pickup items, private message me for custom orders. Custom Cakes by Christy, INC, KRISTY. Text me at 631-606-8166.
I'm Mike Kingston, writer and creator of Headlocks, and I am WWE Hall of Famer Jerry the King Lawler, and guess what you're listening to? You're listening to It Came From the Radio! The Comic Book Depot has been in business since 1993. Your one-stop comic book shop for comics, gaming, and collectibles. The Comic Book Depot club membership is $15 and gets you 15% off new comics, back issues, graphic novels, and 10% off comic book supplies. Located at 2837 Jerusalem Avenue in Wantagh, New York. Contact us on Facebook for curbside pickup because new comics are back. For more information, give Alan a call at 516-221-9337. The Comic Book Depot.
Turn it up.
Hi, this is Amy Jo Johnson, writer-director from the film A Space Between, and you're listening to It Came From the Radio.
New comics are back at Cosmic Comics and Games of Broadway. And now get ready for Joker War from DC Comics. Cosmic Comics and Games is open Wednesday from noon to 7, Thursday from 2 to 7, Friday from 2 to 7, and Saturday from noon to 5. So if you want the latest Marvel, DC, Image, or independent comics, comic book supplies, back issues, and magic cards, please call Chuck at 516-763-1133 for all the details. Thank you and stay safe. Having fun on It Came From the Rain. Greg Berger also.
Now, back to our show.
And welcome back to It Came From the Radio, the official of the Big Apple Con. This is your host, Mark Torres speaking. We are here live on video, Zoom, on our 35th live show, courtesy of the East Meadow Public Library. They have tons of programs every single day. We do a monthly show. For more information, go to www.eastmeadow.info and sign up for all the other stuff that they have. I also want to mention that on the 28th of August, the MCon Anime Fest, which is hosted by Kelly Gordon, is going to have a Q&A panel with voice actors Brittany Lauda and Matt Shipman. So once again, go to www.eastmeadow.info. So, as I mentioned before, we are here with our super special guest all the way from the United Kingdom, artist, author, writer, actor, singer, dancer. What else can I say about you?
Is he a producer or director?
No.
Is he a magician?
Are you a magician?
No, sorry guys.
So, a little bit.
I conjure pictures.
Yeah.
Magic.
That is true.
This is magic. This is
Technically
magic.
speaking, according to Alan Moore, anyone who's creative is a magician.
Yes.
So you could be a magician. And by the way, Mark, please tell me for the love of God that you're going to edit out all those commercials and shout outs, because that sounded terrible.
Terrible.
Well, it's live, so I just put it in there to keep the time.
Okay,
And it does show up on the YouTube page, but when it airs as a regular show, it'll be fixed and it'll nice and happy. Yes.
I'll accept that, because oh my God, my ear, it was like bleeding after that.
Good to know.
Yeah.
So, Prentis Rollins, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, and we'll take it from there.
Let's see. I have been working in the comics biz for, since 1993. I started drawing comics when I was a little kid, and I went to, I was a philosophy student at university and went to USC, and for a while I was contemplating a career as a philosophy professor. So I went to Rutgers to work on a doctorate and left after 2 years with a master's degree, determined to take a crack at becoming a comics artist in the mainstream. And so for 2 years I worked as a temp in New York City and took lessons, and then I finally started getting work in 1993. The first company I worked for was Milestone, which was started by Dwayne McDuffie and Dennis Cowan, Michael Davis and Derek Dingle. And I was with them for like 5 years, inking and penciling hardware mostly, various other things. And then I went on to work for DC proper for like 15 years. Did a lot of Green Lantern work with Pat Gleason and Ethan Van Sciver, a lot of JLA work with Val Semix, great penciler. Many other things, but those are some of the highlights that come to mind.
Is Hal Jordan indeed the greatest Green Lantern of all time?
Yeah, I mean, I think so.
Okay, good. You passed the test. You can stay on the show.
I think so.
And Kyle Rayner's okay.
One of the most interesting inking jobs I had was at Milestone. I inked an issue of the title Static, and the penciler was Gil Kane. Les, the legendary Gil Kane. At the time, he's pretty much responsible for the Silver Age, the Hal Jordan Green Lantern, I think. I forgot the name of the guy that originally created Green Lantern. Sheldon Moldoff, I want to say. Yeah. Anyway, so just
in front of a computer. I'm going to look it up.
This is like 1994, 95. And that was, I just remember I almost defecated, like right there on the spot when I guess it was Dwayne McDuffie said to me, "Do you want to ink this thing?" I was like, "Of course I want to ink it,"
If you're talking about Hal Jordan, it says created by John Broome and Gil Kane. The Hal Jordan character specifically.
I think Gil Kane designed the outfit, basically.
Yeah. Same like Steve Ditko and Stan Lee,
Yeah. Gil Kane was a great, with a capital G, he's just one of those great old school, meat and potatoes artists. So it was an education working with him, and I did an awful lot of work at Milestone with Dennis Cowan, who was kind of my mentor. So I worked mostly, and during my time with the mainstream business, it was mostly DC. I did a little bit with Marvel. Just a couple of issues of New X-Men over Ethan Van Sciver. Ethan and I had a nice relationship for a number of years before he went insane. And
been there. I know what that's like. Someone's nice and stable, and then all of a sudden you're like, who is this person?
Regardless of the state of his, sanity, he was a fantastic artist. So no doubt about that. And for the past few years, I've been doing my own books, graphic novels. A couple of years ago, I published The Furnace, which is a science fiction graphic novel. It's published by Tor Books, the science fiction arm of Macmillan. And about a year before that, it was a science fiction kind of how-to book called How to Draw. There it is. That's The Furnace. How to Draw Sci-Fi Utopias and Dystopias. That was from Monticelli Press. That was a real pleasure to draw. Because that was kind of my thing, what I kind of developed my aesthetic as an artist mainly from movies that I saw as a kid. Star Wars would be, that was when I was like 11 years old. That really got me started. I can show you guys something really interesting, actually, as long as...
yeah.
Wait a minute. No, that's not it.
He is pulling out some books in his shelves.
I started drawing comics when I was 11, and here's...
Oh my God, not that book. Not the book. So I know about this book.
I don't know, can you see, I don't know if you can see that too clearly. It's Star Wars 2. Okay. There's the characters, right?
Huh.
And it's like, and there's like 50 pages here drawn in pencil, just like there's a big explosion scene. But the reason I still have this is because I begged my mom. I saw a kid at school had been drawing comics in one of these hardbound black sketchbooks.
I had one.
And I begged my mom for like weeks to get me one. Finally, she did, and that was the beginning of my life in comics. I just started comics, and I still have it low all these years later. There it is. Yeah, but science fiction, that was kind of, I went through a TIE fighter phase where it's like for a whole year I drew nothing but like TIE fighters and the Millennium Falcon, and a Star Trek phase before that where I just drew the Enterprise. I had like the Star Trek blueprints. I don't know if any of you guys ever had that or remember that. It was this plastic satchel filled with all these fold out blueprints of all the props and ships from Star Trek. And I poured over that stuff and just drew it and drew it and drew it. Yeah, and that's kind of how I cut my teeth as an artist. And it's still what really fills my sails today is drawing science fiction. So like right now I just finished the line art for another graphic novel, a follow-up to The Furnace. I don't know what the publishing venue is for that yet. COVID is kind of, messed with the entire publishing industry like it's messed with everything else. So it's kind of like you got to wait and be patient. And I'm doing the line art for volume 3 of the Jekyll Island Chronicles, which is a 3-issue graphic novel series from Top Shelf IDW, which is an awesome project. I was invited on to work on that by Steve Nedvedek, one of the creators, at San Diego Comic-Con in 2018, where, Mark, I saw you for the first time in many years.
Yeah, it was like 100 years since then. It was weird that we wind up seeing each other in California. Yes,
and we had a great lunch. We had burgers, and it was such a pleasure to see you and get caught up. So a number of really cool things happened 2 years ago at that convention. I saw Mark. I premiered The Furnace. I met Steve Nedvedek and got involved with Jekyll Island Chronicles, which is a really cool project. It's science fiction and it's kind of alt history. It takes place in the 20s, and it's a team of superheroes fighting a bunch of anarchists trying to take over the world. It's kind of the war between the wars, between World War I and II, and it's got this superhero team has some of the characters are like real people, like Tesla, like Nikola Tesla, Henry Ford, Andrew Carnegie, and a bunch of super powered people as well. So great project. I'm having a ball with that. So yeah, there you go. That's me blabbering on about my life for however long that was, but that's kind of where it is right now.
Do you prefer to work on your own stuff or other people's stuff?
If I had to answer that, I'd say my own. That wasn't always the case. Like 20 years ago, I was still kind of fumbling towards my own voice and aesthetic, and I hadn't really established it yet. I'm a late developer in that regard. So like for the longest time when I was working for DC, I was happy to be inking other people because I was learning so much and I was having a great time, and I never had any preconceptions about inkers being second-rate citizens in comicdom. I've always viewed inkers as essential, very essential, contributors to that creative process, the way mainstream comics are created.
That was my initial dream, to be an inker.
Yeah. Well,
we figured out whose dog. It's Charlie.
Charlie, what are you doing?
Yeah. Yes, it is. Tell him what he won, Jack.
Okay. But my initial goal was to be an inker. So anytime I hear someone say like, "No, we're not second-class citizens."
No. I worked.
Damn Kevin Smith. He was all like, "You're tracers." It's like,
that kind of. No, I mean an inker can save a comic book at the 11th hour, or he can derail it. But the same applies to colorists,
of course,
writers, of course, and and even letterers, even though lettering is nowadays done almost entirely with fonts. But I back in the day, I certainly remember seeing any number of good comic books that had basically been ruined by bad text, by bad lettering. So it's a team effort. I mean, putting a comic book together. So, and everybody's got to be, on top of their game to do it right. But nowadays, Mark, getting back to your question, no, I think I definitely prefer to, work on my own stuff, just because, you get to a certain age and you don't know how much time you've got left. And I feel like I definitely have, X number of stories I want to get out of, and really do them well before my hands clinch up with arthritis or I go blind or something like that.
Wow, that's a way to
took a turn, man.
When you're 20 whatever years old and you're working in the mainstream industry, you don't think about this stuff. You're not really thinking about your own mortality or your own shelf life as an artist, as a creator. But as you get older, that all really becomes important. So
I notice you have this glove on, this. Now, is that just to keep from smearing graphite, or?
I'm going to tilt my camera. This is my drawing board. You see that? That's my Cintiq.
Ah.
Yeah. I'm doing Jekyll Island Chronicles, and I have my Mac set up in front of that. So if you see me looking down, I'm looking at the Cintiq. It's a cool-looking glove. It makes me look like a cyborg, but more importantly, it keeps my hand from gumming up the panel of the pane of glass on the Cintiq.
Oh.
Which is a real lifesaver, and nobody told me about it. I had to find out for myself. So if you use a Cintiq tablet or a Wacom tablet, get yourself one of these. You'll be doing yourself a favor.
It's like a gambit glove or something. It was interesting.
I thought he was a Bond character.
So Jennifer, I know I read the book The Furnace. Jennifer, you also read it, right?
I did. Well, mostly, almost every single page. But my question was, are there any real life humans who these characters are based off of, Walton or Mark? Is there anyone you know personally?
They're based on, I mean, when you're writing this stuff, you're definitely, pulling from your own personal experience. There's definitely a recurring theme of, like alcoholism, and I definitely grew up around a lot of alcoholic shenanigans. So I grew on that. The character of Mark Lepore is modeled pretty closely on a guy that I knew in grad school. He was this kind of Mephistophelian character. I mean, he was a nice guy, but he was very intense and charismatic, and some of the exchanges between Mark Lepore and Walton Honderich are almost verbatim reproductions of verbal exchanges that I had with this fellow at Rutgers.
Awesome.
Yeah.
This guy must have been such a character, huh?
Yes. Barry, I won't say his last name. He was quite a character. One of those guys that impresses himself on your memory and just never goes away. So the short answer is everybody in that book is based on one degree or another on somebody. I mean,
that's awesome.
Yeah. And
I was going to be a little disappointed if it wasn't based on anyone. I'd be like, oh man.
Yeah. And a lot of it is set at USC, which that was where I went for university, and I reproduced the look of USC from memory, mostly because I wanted it to be a Los Angeles of the imagination and of the memory, and it was all more about creating a visual feeling, rather than getting details right. So
yeah, it definitely gives you a feeling.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I was going for. So
yeah. Well, I mean, some things you read, some comics, it's just comics, but this feels like the alcohol. I had a hangover. I still have a hangover just reading this because there's so much alcohol in here. So I got that feeling. I got like a feeling.
It's kind of about a lot of things. I mean, it started out, funnily enough, as I was taking a Gotham Writers Workshop in 1998 or 99, and I decided I had this idea because at the time there were a lot of news spots about the problem of people being in solitary confinement in supermax prisons in the U.S. And I wanted to do a science fiction story that kind of tied into that. So I wrote, it was a short story written in just prose, and it was pretty well received by the class, but I was really taken with it. And for the longest time, I wanted to give it a comics graphic novel treatment. And in 2008, I finally said, to hell with it, I'm going to start. And so I started, and I worked on that thing for 8 years.
Whoa.
Off and on. I wasn't working on it full time. It was a back burner thing the whole time.
Back burner, furnace.
Yeah, there you go. And there were 2 or 3 periods of 1 year where I set it aside completely, thinking I would never pick it up again. But I always did. And the way it got published was, I personally couldn't sell $1 for 50 cents. I'm not. But what I did was I found a literary agent, a book agent, a guy named Bob Mikoy. There are book agents who will represent graphic novelists. I sent it to him. He liked it. And he swung the deal with Tor Books. Thank you, Bob. That's all down to him. So if any graphic novelists out there listening, that is a route towards getting something, a baby of yours, published, is you can go online. There are places like querytracker.com that will lead you to a book agent, and they can handle that for you for a fee, for a cut. But it's worth it, worth every penny. So,
Charlie, do you have a question for Prentiss?
No, not as much as an observation. No, listen to me. Not as much as an observation. First of all, I admire the gentleman for actually being in the career that he loves. I admire all people that they're doing what they love, because I think that's an amazing feat, because a lot of people say, oh, you can't do that. But that, and before your career started, before you even had an inkling about what you wanted to do, what was the science fiction movie that impressed you the most?
a few come to mind, and these are all things that I was exposed to when I was little. Soylent Green.
Wow.
It's people.
THX 1138.
Wow, nice one.
Yeah, and a movie called Charlie, starring Cliff Robertson,
Yes.
which is based on a novel called Flowers for Algernon, a science fiction novel. And I did read years later. And the thing, so it was movies like that were, and these are still the kind of movies that really grab me. There's science fiction movies that have got a really powerful, kind of science fiction premise, but they're not really about that stuff. Okay,
Right.
like Soylent Green. You can talk for a long time about the science fiction premise. It's all about this cautionary tale about overpopulation, pollution, global warming, what we're doing to the planet. I mean, this movie's like 50 years old, but they knew about global warming back then.
Yeah.
But that's not what the movie's about in the end. The movie in the end is about, just humanity and man's inhumanity to his fellow man, and the struggle to reclaim dignity. I mean, it's about these big things that matter, okay? And the same is true of THX 1138 and of like Logan's Run, and it's true of Star Wars. Okay, all these great old science fiction movies and Blade Runner, they've got this really strong science fiction hook, but that's not really what they're about. The reason that people walk out of them and remember them for the rest of their lives is because they speak to something very fundamental and human, okay? They're about sacrifice, they're about redemption, they're about love, they're about good and evil. And that's the kind of science fiction that spoke to me when I was a kid and kind of helped to shape my approach to writing this stuff. And it's still the kind of science fiction that speaks to me today. That's why, you know, I love Star Wars, okay? But these spin-off series like Clone Wars and I don't know what else, you know, they drifted so far away from, I think, in my opinion, the important subjects. They've become just so much about the world of Star Wars, and my attitude is, you know, who cares about that?
Yeah.
You know, I'd like to, but I just don't. So
yeah, same.
Well, those are some excellent choices, by the way. And wow. And then one more question. Is it true you had Mark as a student at one time?
Yes, that's
and
what we met.
Was he the worst you've ever had?
Had to have been.
Wow.
Okay, we're going back a long time. So my memory. Okay, I was invited by a man named Carl Paolino. Mark, you can correct these details if I'm getting this wrong. This guy named Carl Paolino was running this thing called the Special Effects Workshop on like 10th Avenue in Manhattan. And I don't remember how I met him. Maybe it was at a convention. He invited me to teach a class on comic book art there at his little school. And Mark was one of the students. And Mark was like I was like 17 or 18 years, I don't know. I mean, he was like a little kid. He was like the skinny kid. You know? Funnily enough, I saw him at Comic-Con 2 years ago, and he hadn't changed. I mean, he's still skinny guy.
He didn't put 1 pound on.
That's funny.
Yes.
I don't think. He's
the most frustrating part, I've watched him eat. He should be fat.
So lucky.
You watched him eat those burgers with you.
Yeah.
He's the Burger King.
He still, if I remember right, he still had an obnoxious head of thick, dark hair. No
yes.
grin.
Well, Charlie and I hate that about him.
And he hadn't lost his sweet, winning personality. I mean that. And he just meandered up to my table, and it was like with you, Dominic. I'm like, I know this guy. I just not sure from where. But then it came to me, and we had a great time. And I was tickled pink, and I'm tickled pink to be talking to you, to Mark, and to all of you right now. So
yeah.
So it was the New York Academy of Comic Book Arts and Fantasy Illustration.
Okay.
But he did run a special effects studio at the same time. But the actual class, I got a certificate for completion. That was the New York Academy of Comic Book Art and Fantasy Illustration.
Do you know who else, Mark? Do you know who else was in that class?
Yeah.
Vincent Zerzullo, who is now one of the guys running Metropolis Collectibles, which is one of the premier boutiques for collectible old comic book art and cultural paraphernalia. So then he was there. He was also a baby. So was I.
So this was 90, I'm going to say 95, 90.
I think it was before that.
4 or 5, around there.
I want to say 93. I want to say like December of 93 or maybe early 94. The reason I say that is because I had just inked pretty recently, like hardware number 10 or 11. I think, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I remember showing it to you guys, showing you original pages, and that would have been like 94.
It was the crossover that you were doing, that you showed us with the Marvel, no, with the DC and Milestone crossover event, or maybe it was Marvel Milestone crossover.
Okay,
but I do remember the pages.
I think that would have been summer of 94, I think, because that was, Long Hot Summer. No, that was Worlds Collide. So
yes, Worlds Collide, yes.
So it was summer of 94, and Long Hot Summer was summer of 95. So anyway, it was in there. So.
Since you brought it up, the one thing I remember about your teachings was that you had an Avengers comic, which I had read, and what you did was you took the comic and then you redrew it how you thought it could be. So I thought that was cool that you said this is a great way to learn how to do storytelling, is that you take a comic, if you don't have access to any scripts, read the script and then redraw it based on what you see and see if you do a better job. And I was like, holy crap, that's amazing.
Well, it was a smart teacher you had. Wow.
So we are at the social media time of the show. So where can people find out more about you? Where can people pick up all the books? Go.
Oh, the books. The Furnace, like everything else, can be easily acquired on Amazon or at Macmillan's, Macmillan dot whatever, just Macmillan, the publisher. Just Google it, and it'll come up. But Amazon's a sure bet. My other art books, How to Draw Sci-Fi Utopias and Dystopias, also Macmillan or Monticelli Press. Let's see.
Can I get the stuff directly from your website?
Yes, you can. You can. Yes, if you go to there's a shopping page where there's a link to order The Furnace and How to Draw Sci-Fi Utopias and Dystopias. My website is www.PrentisRollinsArt.com. PrentisRollinsArt.com. That's a good bet. And Jekyll Island Chronicles, alas, will not be out. It will debut at Comic-Con 2021, God willing. Please.
Yeah.
God.
Are you planning to come back to New York for that? Because then you can come down to the studio.
I will be, if it's happening, I will be there. I will definitely be at Comic-Con 2021.
All Comic-Cons have question marks now.
Yeah, you just can't plan anything right now. But Mark, if it happens, I'll be there. I want you to be there too, because I want to have lunch with you again.
Yes, and you can come down to our studio, because we'll be allowed back in the studio that time. You can be a guest on the show again in our studio. It'll be awesome.
We hope.
So we're at final thoughts time. So it's time for final thoughts. So Charlie Saladino, so you're coming for Charlie Saladino. Do you have any final thoughts for us?
I first of all want to thank our very talented, illustrious guests joining us from across the pond. It's been interesting. His science fiction movie choices were excellent, and I enjoyed that very much. Thank you for being our guest.
Thanks for having me.
Jen, final thought?
If you would not be martyred slaves to time, be drunken continually. Drunken with poetry, drunken with virtue, as you will, but be drunken. From The Furnace.
Dominic, final thought?
Pay the inker. Inker Live matters.
Prentiss, final thought?
I don't know if I can top that. No, that's beautiful. Thank you, Dominic. Thanks for having me, guys. I've had a great time. This has been I'd love to come back sometime.
So my final thought is this. Once again, it's really great having you on the show. Like I said, I've known you for 100 years, and it's great seeing that you're still in the business and that you are succeeded, and you've leaps and bounds from when I first met you. I read the Furnace. It was a great book, great science fiction. So I want to make sure everybody goes and checks out that. So let's see. We have our next live show, which will be on September 9th, which will be our 36th live show, courtesy of the East Meadow Public Library. That's www.eastmeadow.info with comic book artist and creator Patrick Riley. And on the 28th of August, we're going to have a Q&A panel courtesy of the MCon Anime Fest with voice actors Brittany Lauda and Matt Shipman. So that about does it for this week on It Came From the Radio. Join us right here and every week on this radio show. If you miss any part of this show,
tough.
Go to our website, www.itcamefromradio.com. Listen to archives in a week or so. Make sure you go to the East Meadow Public Library website to sign up for our next live show, or listen to our regular show every single week. And we will see you next time.
You've been listening to It Came From the Radio with Mark Torres. The views of the show's hosts and guests did not necessarily reflect that of the management, owners, or staff of the station. We now return you to your earthly scheduled broadcast.